That spark of innovation, it's just waiting for the perfect combination of tools and talent to bring it to life. Welcome to Pitch, Build, Scale. I'm your host, Chris Fanchi, a recovering startup founder, veteran SaaS marketer, turned dev tech enthusiast and growth specialist. Each episode, we connect with the builders, the visionaries, and the problem solvers who are redefining what's possible with today's technology and pioneering the websites, apps, and software products of tomorrow. These are the conversations that transform how we build, how we sell, and how we scale technology businesses in a world where the tech evolves by the minute. Ready to stay ahead of the curve? This is Pitch, Build, Scale. Hello and welcome to today's episode. We have a very exciting guest. For those of you just joining the podcast, we are Big North Marketing and specialize in helping dev shops and SaaS companies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your SaaS or dev business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs. We're really excited to have today's guest, Eric Dunn, CEO of Plastix Marketing and the mind behind Aesthetix CRM, the #1 CRM platform built specifically for medical, spas, and plastic surgeons. Eric's seasoned entrepreneur with a deep background in inbound marketing, franchise success, and AI-driven CRM development. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Man, I'm super excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. So take us back. What first pulled you into the world of marketing and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I would say if we go all the way back, pretty crazy experience is a club I was in high school called DECA. I thought it was kind of a crazy thing, but it was basically a business competition. It's a national organization, and they do this at a regional, state, and national level. And I made it all the way to nationals. Basically you have these case studies that you get given. You get to look at them for 15 minutes, and a lot of them are around marketing. Here's this situation. How would you sell this? And then you end up going, and pitching that idea to kind of local business leaders, and they judge you and kind of determine who wins. And so I just really loved that idea of coming up with those kind of ideas. And then from there, kind of obviously went through marketing in college, got more exposure there, and ultimately started my first marketing agency right out of college, and kind of went from there. And so I've just been a constant, learner, really trying to learn everything you can about marketing. I think you can't learn a lot of this stuff in the classroom. You really have to go out there and learn by doing, and it's constantly evolving. So I hope we get to dive into that a little bit today, the state of it is, and kind of how things are changing so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know exactly what you mean. I went to get an MBA a little bit later in life, so I wasn't straight out of college into my MBA program. And at the same time, I launched a startup during the MBA program. And I tell you, I learned so much more running a startup than I did in the classroom. And that's not to knock on the education side, but just being in it is really, really valuable.
That's really cool to hear that you did that, because it's kind of a similar experience. That's kind of when I launched my agency, was while I was in my MBA program as well. I was actually in a corporate MBA program. And so it was kind of interesting. A lot of the people there, it was funded by their companies while they're there. A lot of the teaching was kind of more in that structure. So, but I found a lot of value in that. One of my mentors told me, use this to learn how to sell to the person that you ultimately hope, want to sell to, probably down the road. And so that kind of corporate ideology, and just how they approach the organization, I think, was super helpful.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So tell me a little bit more about your businesses. You're running two businesses simultaneously right now. Get a little bit into what those are and what you're doing with them.
Yeah. So, Plastix Marketing has been around for about 8 years. It's formerly known as Evolve Marketing. Started as, kind of a HubSpot inbound marketing agency, worked with a lot of different industries. But one of my, first clients was a large plastic surgeon and medical spa practice in Atlanta. So we were applying that same inbound marketing strategy, SEO, digital ads, implementing a CRM, HubSpot specifically at that time. And what we found was just incredible results for this space. And so we're able to increase web traffic dramatically, increase lead generation dramatically. And so from there, we kind of just started adding a few more of these aesthetic practices over the next, few years. And before you know it, we launched this sub brand, Plastix Marketing, probably about 5 years ago. And then a year later, we just really said, let's go all in. Basically rebranded the entire company as Plastix, kind of removed any customers that were not, in this space from our roster and have been full steam ahead. Kind of in that time period, we were constantly looking for a better kind of CRM solution to implement. We were HubSpot certified partners, Fusionsoft certified partners, SharpSpring partners. And so we implemented a lot of different CRMs. We're kind of always trying to look for a little bit better solution. And there's pros and cons to all of these platforms, and so we kind of stumbled onto High Level in 2021. So many people, have now in this world, stumbled onto High Level, but we were relatively early in 2021. And I think, the product has just improved so much since those days. But from there, we kind of looked at how do we build kind of our own solution on top of this platform. And that's kind of where Aesthetix CRM came. They're two separate companies. I'm actually the only person that works on both. And a lot of that is because we really want to keep the software and the agency separate. Agency relationships break. All experience that at this point. And just because your relationship with your agency breaks doesn't mean your software needs to change. And I think that just our experience from being really focused in CRM implementation, especially with HubSpot for so many years, it helped us really develop a very unique CRM solution and implementation process for Aesthetic CRM that really sets it apart from just going and getting your own High Level.
So how do you divide your time between the two companies right now?
Man, only few people can do this. My mind shifts between these two companies multiple times, probably per minute. I mean, it is unbelievable sometimes what I have to do, but uh, luckily I have some great team around me. I've really focused on building a great team, and so a lot of plastics. I've got some great leaders there. So a lot of good top-down leadership and just great team. A lot of very self-managing people. And that's kind of the type of people I look for to join my team. I'm not interested in micromanaging somebody. I do really look for people that, can understand what we're trying to do and really can manage their time and their self.
So you didn't have any background in spas or cosmetics or anything like that when you came into these businesses, right?
No, I didn't. My business partner, Carrie, though, did. She had probably worked in the space for 4 or 5 years, doing some marketing, a little bit of consulting with a few different studios. And so, it was kind of our in. That's how we were able to kind of grab that first customer. And, as I do with most things, I just kind of put my head down and learn. And so we've constantly built a team up as well that has a lot of knowledge about this space. And so that's one of the kind of differentiators, of our team and agency, is like all of our account managers have either worked in a med spa or a plastic surgery practice or have done marketing for this industry for a very long time.
So how did niching down the way you did, going from broad with the marketing agency to a very specific niche, how did that make things easier for
It gave us the ability to really process orient everything. I'm super process focused person. And it was one of the reasons why we didn't really try to grow very fast. I was just really trying to dial in the processes of kind of all of our, service offerings, that we typically offer in a marketing retainer. And so just felt like we were able to do that easier. When you're having to try to, I tell people one of our original first customers was a bomb dog company. So it was this unique, it's kind of the Ferrari of bomb dogs, which when I say bomb dogs, like these are dogs that's, basically sniff out bombs in areas. These are the dogs that are deployed at every Super Bowl. They cost 80 to $90,000. and so they're very unique in how they're set up. But I think it's just one of those things where we had to learn about a lot of that as well, and you just figure it out.
Yeah, marketers, we get to carry a lot of random information in our brains because of the different types of clients that we run into. It's definitely interesting. So tell me a little bit about why you decided you needed to make your own CRM. What were some of the issues that you were running into with the existing solutions that you felt like needed to be solved?
Yeah, the biggest one of all these solutions was they weren't HIPAA compliant. HubSpot, for a long time we were asking for that. There was no option. They did add it actually finally 10 years later, in 2024. But that starts at an enterprise plan, which is a minimum $3,600 a month with a 12-month payment. I mean, how many small businesses are going to drop $50,000 in one day for their software for the year? It just isn't reasonable. And so that kind of leads into the second piece is it just, HubSpot and Salesforce and some of these more enterprise solutions, the small business to them is $15 million a year, ARR. They don't really care about the true small business, which is, a $1.5 to $2.5 million company. And that's really what a lot of these medical spas are, a lot of plastic surgery offices are. That's kind of the average out there. And so really just wanted to be able to develop a software that could be more secure, obviously more cost effective, and then kind of the reliability and implementation part kind of go hand in hand. Some of the other solutions that we tried that were lower cost, we found just like reliability issues with things kind of working all the time the way they're supposed to. It was costing, the practices anywhere between $5,000 to $7,000 for us to implement the CRM as well. Just really expensive, upstart. And so kind of building this CRM in a way that we could take all of our, kind of learnings and be able to implement those into accounts with a click of a button, and then just customize it to them. It greatly decreased the cost and, the time to actually implement the solution.
So let's talk a little bit about the tech that went into building aesthetics and your experiences with technology. You're not coming in as a tech person necessarily, right? You're more on the marketing side, not a software developer. Is that correct?
That's true. I do tell people I'm not really a coder, but I kind of understand the workflow, the software workflow and kind of wouldn't call it necessarily architecture, but a big thing that we've focused on is integration. And so we've done that for 6 or 7 years. I built integrations into HubSpot. And so, just enough to be dangerous. The architect in your entire platform, but can definitely lead a team.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me about then how you built up this platform from essentially from scratch and how it's evolved as the technology has evolved over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the main reasons why we chose High Level as kind of a back end partner. They're obviously pushing development. They've raised a ton of capital. They've invested in things at the right time. They've put a lot into kind of their AI solutions that we're able to piggyback off of, but really just have been focused a lot in the integration space, connecting the CRM solution to different EMRs, really being an open platform to do that. I mean, that gives the customer a lot better data clarity in our system. So they're actually able to bring in real revenue values from their EMR systems into our opportunities and pipelines. So they can really start to look at the marketing ROI from the activities they're running and, how much actual revenue is being produced from these Google ad campaigns over a period of time and a lot of things like that.
Yeah, tracking is definitely a huge challenge with marketing and making understanding where the revenue is really coming from with your different all the different channels that you're hitting, especially right now because there are so many channels that you have to try to touch on to find out what works best for your company. So, what would you say is the most underestimated change happening in MarTech or in the CRM space due to AI right now?
Probably gonna be, it's evolving so fast, right? I feel like every 30 days it's something new. I mean, I think the chat GPT just like image creation was just like a huge step forward. And I think it really, put the focus on that. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of great image and video generation in the AI space happening really in the past 6 months. But I think that is kind of accelerating. I mean, just this week saw a few different tools I'd never seen before that seemed really interesting to play with for almost, developing your own stock imagery style guide, where you could just very easily develop these things, plug them right into Figma, be on brand colors. I think sometimes you're using stock imagery and you don't like the background color, that's used in the
Mm.
stock image. Like it's gonna be so easy to change those kinds of things and emulate the same model that you like with just slight variations. I mean, I think just the creative piece to AI is taking a huge advancement. I know that's something that's supposed to come out in the newest, I think 5.0 or 4.1, is just the focus they've put on creative writing, for example. I think that's gonna, make just AI copy take a step forward. So I think it's probably something that people are using already, but I think if we had to say something that's people aren't or maybe sleeping on a little bit is just how prevalent it's probably going to be, in just 12 months, type of creative and how much of it's actually AI generated.
Yeah. Yeah. The imagery is a big thing to me. I'm glad you bring that up. It seems like just yesterday everyone was talking about, oh well, you get all the extra fingers. Just look at the fingers. You can tell that's AI right away. And now it's just getting harder and harder to tell the difference between an AI generated image and a real image. And especially as someone who's worked in marketing, you've seen a lot of stock images and how ridiculous and even basically fake they look because they're staged. You can make much more natural looking things just using AI now. And like you said, getting the brand colors in there, it's highly valuable for from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, yeah, it's honestly crazy just how fast it's moved, and it's just going to keep moving that way. Like I said, I think the challenge is, I guess making it work, for every brand, and it may not for a lot of, I'd say like these small businesses that we deal with. I can see, this is going to save them tons of time and money that they would have to invest it in otherwise.
So what do you think of the pace of AI? Do you think it's actually moving as quickly as it maybe seems, or do you think there are some things that aren't moving as quickly as you might have expected?
I bounce back and forth on that. Some weeks I think that the world is, ending is imminent, but then I come back to reality of just how long it actually takes things, to happen. And, one of the things I always think about that's kind of tempered my expectations is, we're just now starting to see autonomous vehicles, make it to the roads. They've been working on that for like 10, 15 years.
Mhm.
It takes longer than you expect, and I think, while the, current situation, out there may not look like there's a lot of restriction around AI, there will be restriction on AI at some point, and whether it comes in the US, EU, somebody's gonna put some guardrails on this, probably in the next 5 years, and that ultimately will slow it down some, with kind of what it can do. But I do think a lot of these highly technical skills, development, marketing, those those are going to be on the chopping block because it's going to be very much how can we use AI to be more efficient, be more effective. I mean, you're still going to need a software architect or a CMO, but you may not need the same size marketing team that you have in the past because you've got the tools to help you do it.
Yeah, as a marketer, you look at that and it's definitely it can be worrying because you see I'm using all of these AI tools to accomplish things for my clients, but how long until the marketer becomes just a middleman that's no longer necessary because the tools are advanced enough to know what to do, to be able to do some of that analysis of the business itself and create the solutions. And it doesn't feel like we're that far away from that point.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't, and AI is very much more logical, I think, than a lot of us are. like its ability to kind of look at things, a lot of things at one time and kind of draw a reason from it. Some of us are very good at doing that, and we don't really know that's what we're doing, per se, but it is kind of incredible to think about just deep research and, being able to pull kind of all this data in and draw these insights. And then, eventually, right, there's going to be some marketing tool that one of us creative minds puts together that just makes it very easy to go through how we would go through our process to do everything. So, I think it is scary from a standpoint of, it's going to probably eliminate a lot of roles for us out there. But, at the same time, I think the kind of leaders in this space, the ones that really get ahead of it, are going to continue to win just because they know more, about this medium and kind of how our art and what we do, and can probably use the tools better, quicker, even if the tool is very easy to use. I think sometimes we're going to give these small business owners a little too much credit, and their
Yeah.
ability. I think, the 10, 15, $20 million companies, yeah, like that have 10, 15 person marketing departments, agencies are going to probably struggle to win that business in the future because they're going to feel like they can do a lot of that stuff in-house now with the tool set that they may have.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So from a technology standpoint, when you're building your product and you've got all these new tools and gadgets and opportunities to add features, how do you balance what to add in and what's not quite necessary or not ready yet?
Yeah, I think, what I look at, we launched an AI chat assistant probably close to maybe 15 months ago. And, it's constantly evolved. Even still today, AI can go a little rogue. It can answer questions incorrectly, even with a ton of knowledge given to it about, the specific business and how they do things. And so I've just realized, as much as, I know AI is killing it for a lot, and we have plenty of great positive and awesome experiences that our customers have had with it. But there's still that 5 to 10% situation where it just goes off the rails. And, the customer really, I think, gets aggravated or upset by it. Now, could a $15 employee probably make the same mistakes? Probably, so I think sometimes they don't have that perspective. But I think, for us too, it's looking at, I don't want to ever be like the first on a lot of these things because I don't think they're necessarily ready for being in a commercial situation completely. But voice AI is probably something that we really hope to launch by the end of this year. It's just not, to me, it's not where I want it to be, to where I say this is a better solution. I think there's still a lot to be said about that customer experience. And I think the company that just is immediately going to voice AI that doesn't sound super realistic, it kind of degrades your brand to me. Telling your customer, I put more value in, my profits and efficiency per se than, the experience of just being able to talk to another human. So about whether AI or human in these different solutions is the better route.
Yeah, and there's a very good chance that before long that will be a differentiator for some companies, is being able to say that we do have humans that you can interact with and that it's not a robot, it's not an AI that you're interacting with when you talk to us.
I mean, we tell people that about our chat support, is that it's not AI, because I think a lot of companies have made that shift to their chat. It's just completely AI driven off of the help articles. And,
Mhm.
that can work in some cases, but there's a lot of times it's probably not a help article for every single thing that, the person's asking for. And so
Yeah.
we still promote that as kind of a thing because I think a lot of software is starting to lean that way.
Yeah. And I'm sure some are not scrupulous enough to even tell the customer, the person that they're chatting with, that they're not chatting with a real human.
Yeah. I mean, I love our help support software we use is Gleet, and they created a co-pilot in there that is trained completely on your help articles. So it is nice, for our chat support team to be able to reference AI and use the tool, but then, be able to respond that, to the customer or, change a little bit about that response, from AI without necessarily having to use just straight AI with no kind of human interference.
How tech savvy would you say your target market is? And is AI something that they're clamoring for, something that they're asking for, or something that they're still skeptical
If we're doing it like a 6 out of 10 is probably what I'd give them. I think a lot of them are, a little bit tech savvy, like the, say, owners of these practices. Now, the people inside of it, we may have to go a little bit lower. They're usually the ones, right, that are a little bit more resistant to change and technology. They are I would say we have sold, our AI add-on with probably 60 to 70% of new sales since November. And so, it's very much at the forefront of people's minds. It's just because that's what everybody's, pushing. So I've got these AI enabled features. And so, like, if you don't have them, probably, not even in the consideration set. I think customers sometimes set their own expectations about what those tools can do. Uh, So sometimes I would say that they're disappointed, but also, one of the big things we talk about with kind of our AI employee, right, is it doesn't leave you. You can't fire it. It can't quit, it just keeps working. And so, a lot of the success of it is how much time you put into it. I think that can be true of a human employee and training, them as well. I think sometimes people forget that part. They think that it should just come out of the box and be perfect at answering everything about their business. You really do need to work at it.
Yeah. So both the marketing agency space and the MarTech space are pretty crowded right now. How are you carving out attention in both of these areas?
Yeah, I think, with plastics, I think, we're kind of shifting a lot right now, but really since the beginning of last year, our big focus has been putting the account manager position back at, I think, a higher pedestal than a lot of agencies have kind of moved it in the past 2 or 3 years. I think a lot of people have gone to this like support ticketing system and almost trying to make an agency feel like a software. And we're really trying to still, even with working with these small businesses, give them somewhat of a full service agency experience with a real human being that manages their account, that they can call, that they can email. And so really putting that person and that human to human contact first, and, obviously giving you the full offering of an inbound marketing agency as well. And then on the software side, I think our big focus there has been integrations and really creating an open, platform and environment. So really building, specific partnerships with different EMRs, building more integrations for the tools that this industry is specifically using. Some of our big integrations are like Cherry, for example, which is a patient financing company in this space. So again, providing that data now inside of the CRM gives you the ability to do a lot more segmented and targeted campaigns, and just giving people more and more tools, integrating what they already have, and really separating ourselves by being verticalized in this space so that you're in a software that's been designed for you, with people that understand your industry. You can go get HubSpot and build the exact same thing, but you could spend 400 or 500 hours getting to where we're at, or you could just get it day one, and something that's actually been structured in a way for how your business operates.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'll let you go on this last question. Aside from cloning yourself so that there are two of you, hypothetically, if you had a magic wand to fix one thing in your business right now that's either holding you back or slowing you down, what would that one thing be?
Yeah, I think for me, it would probably be just some of the way that we've built our integrations and our setup. Right now, it's kind of built in a very Zapier style interface. And, it's just the documentation of the setup of these integrations every time is very detailed. It changes, right? Things change, apps update. Kind of feels like I'm constantly fighting, the waves of that, and kind of just, if I could get someone else, that I've really felt like understood it at the level that I do, I think it would give me back a lot of my time, to be able to focus more on strategy and, kind of that vision of the company. And I'm sure a lot of founders, deal with the same thing. It's hard to let go of the reins sometimes. And when it's a super technical thing, sometimes it's just getting the right person to, you're ready to give the reins away, but you can't find the right person kind of to do the work yet.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate the time, Eric. This has been a great conversation. I hope you got something out of it, and I think the audience will get something out of this too. Definitely interesting to talk about where things are at and where things are going with technology and in a very interesting time that we live in. So, can you tell the audience where they can find you and learn more about your businesses?
Yeah, again, really appreciate you having me on, Chris. If you want more information about Plastix Marketing, it's just Plastix Marketing. That's with an X, .com. If you want to get a consultation, just click schedule a consult up there and fill out the form, and we'll get back in touch with you. And then if you're interested in learning more about Aesthetix CRM, you can tell their sister companies both with the X, just aesthetixcrm.com, and feel free to browse around. If you'd love to get a demo, just click get a demo up there in the right corner.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And for everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, please feel free to subscribe, leave us a review, and keep following. So, as always, keep building, keep pitching, and keep scaling. Thanks for listening to this episode of Pitch, Build, Scale. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast provider so you never miss an episode, and we'll see you next time.